I'm about to show you how to transfer onto one of the mount board shapes. So what I've done first of all is I've taken a shape and I've just cut it out. Now, you know, it's really simple. Even if you've got some white showing, it really doesn't matter. Just get as close to the shape as you can. And that's the first stage. So as you can see, it's the oval poppy I'm going to work with. And I found the right size oval mount board because you will find that they correspond. So if you say that's a perfect match, and that's all good. So what I'm going to do first of all is I've got that ready, but I'm going to now take this mount board. On the smooth cream side I've got some emulsion paint. It's just a matte, this is a 1 coat white emulsion paint. Looks gorgeous, looks like marshmallow or something, doesn't it? And I'm going to take my big brush, the largest brush from my paint brush set, and I'm going to just start applying the paint. Now these lights are super hot, you wouldn't think it, but I'm sitting under 2 industrial size lights, which seemed like a good idea at the time, but yowza, I'm absolutely boiling. But so what's going to happen is this paint's going to dry even quicker than normal. So what I want you to pay attention to is just how much paint I'm putting on here. This is the secret to the success. You really want a good amount of paint on here, and especially around the edges, because that's the first bit that's going to start to dry. So as you can see, I'm just going over, but you want it, the paint, this is a matte emulsion, so I know that when it's shiny it's still wet. Now I'm going to stop there. I'm going to take my transfer and I'm going to immediately put it face down. Notice I didn't mess around there. I didn't hang around. I wasn't being faffy and finicky and repainting and thinking about it. In fact, I don't think about much, and that's all good. So I've just lifted that up, just quickly just wipe that, and then the first priority is to make sure this has made contact, especially around the edges, and then especially right over the full surface. Now I'm rubbing it with my hands straight away to make sure that there's no air bubbles. That's important. If you get an air bubble, it just means that you're going to get a drop out in your image, because the printed side of the paper won't have embedded into the wet emulsion paint. Next thing, so because I've made sure that's made full contact, I don't want to take any more time because I want to ensure again everything's covered. I've got a large spoon and I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to rub, not really heavily, just quite, you know, not like a transfer rubbing where it's really quite hard, but just a nice firm even pressure right across the whole thing, and then at a different angle just continue just getting that whole area. Just make sure again that you've got no air bubbles. If you do this and you take too long, the paint dries underneath, so if you have an air bubble you won't have had time to stick it down. So this is what I mean, you really do need to just get on with it. And the thing that's going to spoil it for you is if you overthink it and try and make it too difficult and ponder what you're doing. Just get on with it. Right, that's it. Look, how simple was that? That's easy peasy lemon squeezy. I'm done. I can't see any ripples or anything in there. I've gone over, I'm just making sure again, just quickly everything's covered. And now the next thing is I'm going to take my either a hairdryer or your heat tool and dry it. Now I'm going to do that. I'm going to leave you for a little bit, but I'm going to time how long I've dried this for so I can tell you. You know, I don't usually time it, but I will this time, and I'll see you in a minute. So it's taken me exactly 3.5 minutes to dry this with my heat tool, and constantly, mostly on the side of the paper, but on the back as well. And you'll find when you're done, it's crispy, it's solid. There's nothing, it's absolutely no dampness there. You really need it to be bone dry. And I left it to cool a little bit as well. Don't put your finger straight on it when it's still hot, because you won't thank me for it. Next thing, water, just a water spritzer. Depends how fierce your water spritzer is. This is a nice lovely mist one, so what was that, 4 or 5? I have another one that's not as good, and I only missed it a couple of times because it over wets it. I've let it sink in a little bit. In fact, you know, under these lights I'm going to do it a little bit more. You don't want it puddled on the top though. And then to start it off, I've got a little kitchen sponge, you know, this little cheapo sponges for washing your dishes, I've heard tell. There's this bit here is what I'm going to use. I'm just going to go ahead and just start to just scrub the top layer off. Not really heavily, just get it started. And you'll start to see underneath the image coming through. So if you get a bit of paint on the back, you'll see it'll just roll off the paint bit. Don't worry about that. The water won't penetrate it, but a roundabouts will, and that will just rub off. So I'm just going to wet it a little bit more, and I'm not going to do too much more with this because I don't want to scrub off my image. So this is just a little help at the start, just to get, like I say, the top bit of paper off there. And then let's work on this bit here so you can see what I'm doing. You see there where it's starting to, you're starting to see the image around there? Right, now I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to just take a little bit of water, dampen it again with my fingers, and just start to rub now and concentrate on an area. And you'll see can you see the leaves coming through there? Nice and not too wet here. If you over wet it, you're just going to moisten that layer too much. At the end of the day, it is just emulsion paint, but it's perfectly durable enough if you just do what I say, and you know, just be careful about over wetting it. Let's try and reveal this little bit of red up here, because it is absolutely stunning. Can you see that coming out there? And you just keep on like that, look, see. Once it starts to roll off, it really does happen quite quickly. Now towards the edges, brush out towards the edges. Now you can see there's a tiny little bit come off there, but that doesn't matter because I can tidy that up with my distress inks, which is what you're going to have to do anyway. I mean, you know, to get it absolutely 100% without anything around the edge is a big ask, because transfer techniques are usually a little bit kind of, when they're done with a wet medium, you know, there's usually a little bit of maybe they drop out here and there, but to be honest, once you get good at this, you can get them so that they virtually look like the original, which I'm going to show you. So I'm going to continue with that, but you can see hopefully how that's working. I'm just going to continue with that and then we'll come back. So there you have it. It's almost finished, but if you look closely, you'll, by the way, that took about the same time, 2 or 3 minutes, about 3 minutes of doing the removing the paper. But if you look closely, when it dries, you might see a little bit of fuzzy white appearing again. When it gets to that stage, don't spray the surface. Spray your non-stick craft sheet or you know, something that you can, a tile or whatever you have at hand, and just pick up a tiny little bit of moisture on your finger, and then just very lightly just start to rub the surface, and you see that you think you've got all the little bits of paper, but can you see how that's brightened up there? It's gone. Now when it's wet it disappears anyway, and I've got a little cheat for that, so that if you haven't got every little bit, I'm going to show you a cheat. Just when you get to this stage though, don't do it before that. You can't do this next bit as a cheat with paper all over it. It's just got to be almost to that stage there. And that's not bad at all, considering I did it under the lights. Now, you'll notice there's a little bit of unevenness around the side. I've just noticed a little bit of paper. You really don't want any paper hanging on there if you can help it. So just give that a little rub, and that's gone. A little bit there on the side, can you see? Again, just be careful around the sides though, because that's the most fragile bit. That may not have dried. Now, what I want to do is I want to disguise those edges. So as I do anyway, when I'm just creating the original and I've painted it, I'm going to use some distress inks. Let's just do it with a black. I usually use either a walnut or a vintage photo in black. Mostly walnut and black suit, to be honest. And all you do is just look, flick in towards the image and down. Keep it quite linear. You know what, if we haven't got dogs cutting in when we're doing videos, we've got a cat this time. Ay, ay, ay. Definitely wedges here for their bidding. So can you see? Just see how that's disguised that you wouldn't even know. And you know what I think is absolutely fantastic as well? I mean, what a time saver, what a cheat. And if you're learning Paint Fusion, this is a great kind of stopgap while you're practicing, because honestly I'm going to show you some finished samples using this particular shape. I had to look, I couldn't pick out my painted version to the transferred version, and I'm going to show you that now. But look at how that's disguised that. That's, I think, is amazing. Even down to the background, where'd that come from? That was on the transfer. I didn't even crackle the background. Right, I'm going to show you here. Okay, Let's pop that in so you can see better. This is the one I've just done, okay? This is the one that I did earlier, and this was before I had them finished, actually finalised, and you can see it's a mirror version. And you can see how it's absolutely gorgeous, smooth, the colours have popped out. And what I did there is I used a little bit of PVA glue, just a little bit of glue, and watered it down a little bit and painted over it, just to capture those little bits of fuzzy little bits of paper that maybe were left, and it kind of makes them disappear a bit, but you have to, just when there's tiny little bits. This one here, then moving on, this one here, one of those is the original and one of them is the transfer, okay? Now, I know which one's which, purely and simply because on the transfer I used some spray and shine instead of using the watered down PVA glue for that finishing touch to make any little fuzzies disappear, and that's that one. But you really, I wouldn't know, I had to look carefully. So to finish it, once you put your ink on, and actually before you do the embossing around the edges, a very thin coat, make sure your distress ink's dry, of PVA watered down a little bit. I would say just a touch of water on your brush, just to make it brushable, really, not too thin. Kind of like when you're doing the crackle. And let it dry, and it'll dry to a satiny finish and it'll seal it. Or, I think is even better, is a quick spray of spray and shine. And there you've got the original here and the transfer here.